Hey guys, welcome back. I've been trying to get into Planetside 2 a bit lately, and I gotta say, it's not the easiest game to hop into cold. It's got a bit of a unique play style, it's definitely got quite a few unique mechanics, and the player base generally has been playing for quite a while, which means that when you do engage with someone, they probably have far more experience and unlocks than you do. That being said, I'm not really coming in cold. I have quite a bit of experience playing the game before, but that was like well before the lattice system, much less everything new they've added, like missions, the entire NSO faction, and things like orbital strikes. So it's definitely quite a bit different than when I left it, but it's still a really fun and enjoyable game. I actually made a brand new character from scratch, partly so that I could stream with them, and partly so that I could kind of just get that fresh new player experience, see what's changed on that side of things, and just generally, ease my way into the pool. And I made a second new character so that I could play on the NSO faction on top of that. Both of them have been really fun, but again, even for someone with lots of past experience, it was quite a bit of a learning and remembering curve. That being said, after, putting a good bit of time into both of those characters, I think I've got a pretty good handle on like what matters early on, what to focus on, and just to have a good bit of advice to share with anyone else who's looking to get in the game. And on the flip side, if you have a lot more experience than I do, feel free to tell me what I missed in the comments section, so hopefully we can all learn something here. Alright, Planetside 2 is an FPS, so let's get started by looking at some combat tips. These first two are probably similar to other games, but they do have some extra emphasis in Planetside that I want to focus on. So first things first, find a battle buddy. Don't just try out by yourself, right? As in most FPSs, you have a much better shot at winning an engagement if it's a 2v1 versus a 1v1. But on top of that means that you won't get ambushed nearly as often, right? I main light assault, so that means it's my job to flank people and engage them from really weird places that they didn't think to look at or didn't think to look out for. And that means that we're engaging on my terms, right? If I have a mid-ranged rifle, I'm gonna wait till you walk by me and you're pretty far down the road before we engage. On the flip side, if I have a shotgun, I'm just gonna jump straight out at you when you get closest to me and pick that engagement. So we're engaging on my terms, playing to my strengths, and if you're by yourself, I'm gonna pick that almost every time. But if you're with a friend, there's a lot more hesitation, because it means that I can take one of you out like that, but usually your friend gets the drop on me while I'm finishing you off, and that leaves me in not a great situation. So I generally let those fights go, especially given that I can pretty much just wait 10 seconds and find someone who's walking by themselves. So, again, if you're not just walking around by yourself, I'm not going to ambush you nearly as much, which means that you're spending more time in engagements that you picked, which means that you're probably going to be more effective and have more fun. Second tip, and again, similar to other games, watch your sightlines. A lot of this game is about shooting the enemy first, so minimize your chances of getting shot at first. If you find yourself frequently dying in fights that you didn't start, this is probably what you need to work on. With massive battles both in player count and physical size, this is definitely more complicated and probably more important than most of the other games out there. If you don't do this well, you're ultimately just leaving yourself open to getting blasted from multiple directions without much of an option to retreat, all while the enemy has the upper hand, which is just as bad as it sounds and ultimately is a recipe for disaster. Here's a clip where I actually execute this idea really well though. I fly over to this rock and get shot at. Instead of returning fire, I've managed my sightline, so I could just disengage behind the rock. He had the advantage, but the fight's now over. So I wait a few seconds while I move to another spot, and then I can pop out and engage on my terms and win the fight with the upper hand. Had I flown in higher or dropped down the front of the rock, quickly breaking that sightline would have been almost impossible. And had I returned fire, I would have just continued the fight at a disadvantage, so why would I do that? In a nutshell, just basically be mindful of how many directions you can be shot at from. Enemies will frequently engage with you through doors, windows, and open terrain, so keep those all in mind, and minimize your visibility from the fights that you don't want to pick, and intentionally pick the fights that you have the upper hand in. Third tip, I would recommend starting with either Combat Medic, Engineer, or Heavy Assault. So all three of these have more familiar playstyles to other first-person shooter games, and on top of that, they have really good teamwork, which helps you and everyone around you. Support types in this game still have really good, solid combat play, so, don't think of them as the newbie characters, think of them as actual combat characters, and their twist is just that they also get to help people, which is really cool. I still use all three of these classes all the time. Like, if I have a day where I'm just not on top of my game, right? I don't have the twitch reflexes to really do ambushing, or we're just in a fight that doesn't lend itself to it, I'll go pull out one of these classes, and I still have loadouts and enough experience to have fun with them. If I hop into a squad that wants to be really coordinated, you know, playing Light Assault doesn't really lend itself to teamwork, but playing any one of these three does. So, you know, they're just really good all-around classes that you'll probably use for the entire time while you play this game. So you might as well start with them and branch out from there. Fourth tip, this one's a lot quicker, use teleporters. A lot of the bases around the map in the spawn room have a teleporter that take you to another building in the same base. This is really useful because if the enemy has a hardened position around the spawn point, usually in a building immediately adjacent to the spawn point, you're not gonna have a good time. Because it's not like you could run to that building to get cover because there's 20 dudes in there. You also can't really walk around the building because they'll just shoot at you from out the windows. So instead of doing what everyone else is probably doing and just running out of the spawn room and dying over and over and over, turn to your left or your right and hop in the teleporter, and it will take you to a totally different building somewhere on the base where there's probably much fewer enemies and you probably have a much better shot of doing whatever you want to do. But yeah, the last tip is basically don't be afraid to go to another fight. If both the spawn room and the teleporter leave you at a massive disadvantage, it's probably just time to go somewhere else. Don't feel bad about it. Playing to your strengths is much more effective, and ultimately it's much more fun. And remember, you're playing a game, so having fun is ultimately what matters. Dare I say that unless you're some kind of masochist, running out of the spawn room and immediately dying over and over and over probably isn't very fun. So just leave the meat grinder and go to a different fight that you actually have a chance at. Alright, so after your first couple engagements, you're probably going to have quite a few certs, and you're going to be wondering what to spend them on. My advice is immediately cert into an optic, right? The default iron sights aren't terrible, but almost every single playstyle has some other better optic that you could buy. So if you're picky, go to the VR training and find an optic that you like and buy it. It is a very cheap, very quick, no frills upgrade. They're absolutely first thing you should ever buy. Second tip, after you have an optic, is don't feel like you immediately have to cert into anything else. Instead, kind of reflect every time you die on what the problem is. Why did you die? And cert into things that actually solve those problems. Don't try to anticipate what problems you have. Actually, you know, go out, experiment with things, and see what problems you have. So if you want to play CQC, play CQC, and then figure out what problems you're running into. For example, you might find that for a CQC build, you don't have enough accuracy from the hip. So go buy a laser pointer that increases accuracy from the hip. You might be losing engagements with a mid-range build because the weapon recoil is throwing you off. So go buy a foregrip that reduces the vertical recoil. Here's a clip where I noticed that my mid-range build for Light Assault was often dying after several successful engagements because each engagement chipped away at my health, and there's no medics around me to heal me because I'm flanking, so I just bought a med kit. Problem solved. Third tip is remember that certs aren't only for weapons. So there's a lot of just general class abilities, tools, utilities, a whole bunch of different things that are also bought with certs, like the medkit I just mentioned. So if there's classes that you find yourself playing quite frequently, scroll through the upgrades list for that class and just see what's out there, right? The medics can upgrade their healing gun to heal people faster and revive people faster. Light Assault can upgrade jump jets to fly longer. There's a million different things out there, and they're all angled at solving different problems with different playstyles. So see what's out there, and don't forget that they're not only for weapons. The last tip that I have is do missions, right? You'll get paid to literally just try new things, which is phenomenal. I never thought that I would like Infiltrator. I've never really been much of a sniper in other games, but every time that mission comes up, I grab it now because I enjoy playing Infiltrator from time to time, and I also enjoy getting a good chunk of cash at the end that I can go dump into the other builds that I play quite frequently. So, I mean, it's a win-win. And bonus points if you can save them and redeem them on double XP weekends. I mean, what's not to love about that? Alright, the last part of the game that I think is a really core part of the game that I wanted to highlight for people who are a bit more new is the social side of the game. I mean, really this is just squads and outfits, right? If you're in a squad, you usually get a bonus on all XP and certs that you make, so literally just existing in a squad nets you more certs. Why would you not? But on top of that, you know, being in a squad generally means that there's gonna be people nearby. And again, the first tip in combat is don't be by yourself. So if you're in a squad that even has a moderate amount of cohesion, there's usually going to be people around you that you can kind of, you know, follow around, glue yourself to, and enjoy all those benefits. Ultimately, the really fun thing about squads is that there's so many different ways to play. This is actually a video I want to do, is like hop into a whole bunch of random squads and record how they interact and how they do things. I mean, there's the laid back squads where, you know, someone just throws a squad waypoint on a base and everyone goes and attacks that base. There's not a lot of coordination to it, just everyone go here. There's even squads that I call like not squads, where they have no coordination, there's not even a squad waypoint, and they're just in a squad to get the cert bonuses, which, I mean, that's your thing, have at it. You're not really taking advantage of being in a squad, but that is one way to play the game, and I'm not going to shame you for it. There's coordinated squads where, you know, it's not just take this base, it's, hey, I want this group of people to try to focus on taking this building, and this other group of people is going to push in through this alleyway, and, you know, trying to more intelligently manage those resources. Once you find the general way you like to play, the second half of this is joining in outfits that you have more opportunities to play with those squads. The other sort of hidden advantage to being in an outfit is that by being in an outfit, you get to earn merit, which then lets you unlock even more things, so again, more bonuses, why not do it? But yeah, the social side of Planetside can be really nice. The community is generally pretty good, and just finding a whole bunch of like-minded people who enjoy playing the game the same way as you do really can make the experience that much deeper. I mean, those are the three main areas that I really think make Planetside 2 awesome. The tips and tricks I could think of to give to new people, but I'm sure there's stuff I missed, so if there's something that you guys had to learn the hard way, or if you're more experienced than I am and you have more nuanced sort of tips and tricks that you want to give out, drop those in the comments section. I read and reply to every comment, so at the very least I'll learn something from it, which would be great. And hopefully, you know, if you're watching this video, go see what other people have dropped in the comment section too. Hope you guys have a great day, and if it's a Friday, have a great double XP weekend. I'll catch you guys in the next video.